Welcome to Draw This. Draw This is a series of videos where I randomly generate a word and then draw it in real time so that you, the viewer, can follow along. I'm going to go to thegamegal.com's word generator, and I'm going to do a kind of special drawing this time. I'm just going to use a few layers, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to generate 3 random words in a row, and I'm going to combine each of those words into a drawing. It's going to be kind of more of a doodle, I guess. So our first word is doll, and then balloon, jacket. Well, this is going to be a fun one. Okay, so doll, make a new layer for that, and we'll make a new layer for balloon, and we will make a new layer for jacket. I guess this doll is going to be wearing a jacket and holding a balloon. Okay, so I'm going to use the scratchboard tool, make a little tiny sized brush here and do a test. I think that's a good test. I have a shortcut key here, a few shortcut keys on my Wacom Cintiq companion, so I'm going to use those to do some different shortcuts. So let's go ahead and start with the doll. I'm just going to select black and use the scratchboard tool, making my palettes go away, and I'm sizing my canvas here. So I guess I'm going to have this doll kind of here. I guess this is going to be a sketch really quick just to determine what I'm going to do exactly. And then I will go over that sketch and clean it up. So I like to just use primitive shapes to build up my forms. I'll give this doll kind of buttons for eyes. I'm going to do my best to make this kind of challenging. Okay, I guess we'll give this doll some hair too. We go to the balloon layer. That way it has a sense of being like a helium balloon. And then we need to give this doll a really sweet jacket. Do like one of those kind of 80s or 90s looking ones. Maybe it'll be corduroy, who knows. I'm not kidding here, I'm really going to draw a nice jacket because I said I would. Draw some lines for the corduroy here. Now again, it's not going to stay like this. I'm not copying out and doing this simple of a doodle. This is just going to be the sketch. So I'm going to bring my palettes back here, and then I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer, and I'm going to turn down the opacity on all these other layers. Might as well just do this the easy way and then just group them. So I'm going to do that, or collapse them, I mean. Call it sketch. Okay, we'll call this ink. So turn down the sketch a little bit more, and then I'm just going to ink over it with the same brush, but this time I'm going to zoom in. I'm just going to use the zoom tool for this. It's going to be easier. And then we'll go a little bit closer. Okay, we got super zoom here, but this way I can really draw in all of this stuff pretty accurately. Size my brush appropriately here. Go a bit smaller. And then I'm really going to just try my best to ink this carefully. So we're going to have a button for the eyes. So I'm going to give them kind of an edge. Give it a couple of holes. Do the same for the other side. And then the nose, I guess, is just going to be this triangle shape. Same thing with the mouth, that'll be pretty simple. And I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. The shortcuts on this Cintiq companion are really nice to have. I was doing these kind of portable drawings on the Surface Pro, and the Surface Pro doesn't have the external buttons, so that makes it a little bit harder to draw on. I'm just going to do these quick strokes here because sometimes the faster you do it, the better it comes out. Kind of like so. We'll put some hair up here. If you're wondering how to draw straight lines, well, you have to, or not straight lines, but smooth lines, you just have to draw a lot. There's no way around it, but this spontaneity and quick motion definitely helps to make your lines smoother. If you spend too long drawing, your hand shakes too much and you can't draw a smooth line. So we'll go ahead and do the kind of fluffy collar that's going to be on this jacket. It's going to be kind of a cartoon style, I guess. I really like cartoons and cartooning. I just don't do it much anymore because I did it so much as a kid that I kind of feel like it's not as challenging to me anymore to do. But it's still fun. So that'll be the neck, and then we'll do the division down the center of the jacket. Give it kind of an edge here to make it look like it's fabric. Pan down, and we'll give it the effect of kind of overlapping the legs a little bit. Maybe we'll just have the legs come out of the jacket. That'll kind of make it look more like a doll, I think. I'm going to go back a couple. That leg was no good. That's better. Then we'll go ahead and put the buttons on. Give the doll some arms. And we'll do the balloon. So here I'm going to try to do this really quick so that I get a good balloon. If you don't get it right, just do a few undos until you do get it right. There we go. That's not too bad. I can live with that. And then I'm going to zoom out quite a bit here so that I can see this string and where it will connect to the hand. That'll work. I think it'll just kind of be attached there since the doll doesn't have any fingers. I think that is good for most of the ink. So I'm going to just hide the sketch layer because I don't need that anymore. And then we can go through and clean this up a little bit more. So I'm going to zoom back in and use the same scratchboard tool on the right layer, of course, to paint in just some thicker lines. It's nice that I can also rest my palm here on the tablet and it's not interrupting anything. Just kind of darkening some of these lines to give it more of a sense of dimension here. And I'm going to go back to the collar and I'm just going to darken that a little bit too so it stands out a little more. Now, if I were going to do a cartoon like this, I might use something like Illustrator to draw in this ink because then the ink comes out a bit smoother. So this isn't really the absolute best way to draw this kind of artwork, but I just kind of wanted to just doodle. And I know in the earlier episodes that I've done things that are kind of more serious and really involved. So this, I just wanted to just show you how you can just sit casually and you can draw on something like this tablet or even on your desktop computer with like a Wacom Intuos. It's pretty fun. I do a lot of serious drawings for you know, for myself that I want to sell, and things for clients and commissions, and those involve a lot of stress because I want them to be perfect. But stuff like this, when you're just doodling, you can just do it and you can have fun, and you don't have to worry about trying to sell this piece or showing it to anybody. It's just something you do for practice. And you know, I wouldn't, when this is finished, I wouldn't put this up in a gallery or anything, but I don't know, it might be like a cool t-shirt design or something. I want to add a little bit to the balloon. I'm kind of concentrating these thicker lines on the underside, which gives more of an impression of shading, because we're going to do pretty simplified color here. So when you're doing stuff in a cartoon style like this, you have to use stuff like hatching to imply shading. Did some hatching here. Hatching are these little thin lines. I could do some of that on a new layer for the rest of the body too. Like a layer for that. And what I'm doing here is I'm pressing down very lightly to get these thin lines. And this is, again, something you have to do with practice because it's not easy. But the trick is you want to plant your wrist or your hand, this part of your wrist, down on your tablet. That kind of keeps it anchored, and then you just kind of just whip these out, these lines, really, really quickly. So here we go. I'll do some here. And keeping your hand planted kind of helps you to keep your lines more straight. And then you pick your hand up and set it back down, and you do more. And you just keep lifting up and setting down. I shade like this a lot when I do ink drawings, and it's just a style of shading that I like. So you can curve these lines, you could have them intersect, you could do lots of things. What I like to do is I like to try to follow the contour of what I'm imagining. I like to also use them to imply shadows, like where the jacket would overlap the legs. And then doing little dots is nice, that implies some texture. So all these little details help people figure out exactly what this is. So I'm going to just do the arms here so that I don't jump to the jacket and then forget to do them. Do some dots for texture. This really honestly does feel nice to draw on this thing. It's a lot like drawing in my sketchbook with an ink pen. I mean, obviously it's slightly different, but overall the experience is really nice. And I feel like the other tools I've worked with, the Surface Pro and even just regular tablets, you feel like you're still not 100% to feeling like you're drawing in a sketchbook. And this actually really does feel like you're drawing in a sketchbook. And it's a million times better than a sketchbook because it's a computer. You can store everything on it. It does everything for you. You can check your email. I can finish a drawing this. And by the way, I'm recording this on the computer as I'm doing it. I could upload this to the internet right now and put it on a t-shirt and, you know, sell it. And it's just amazing. It is just amazing. Let's do some more shading here on the neck. Hatching. And we're going to do it thicker where the head and the collar are, because we want that area to be darker. Do some shadow from the head and some dots for the neck. See, there's the consistency between the parts of the body that have the dots. That way you know that it's supposed to be skin or something, or doll fabric, whatever you would call it. I'm going to do just a little bit of contouring on the head. I'm trying to do these curved lines, that way we don't flatten our head. And then there can be some, especially here where the hair overlaps, we'll have them kind of radiate out. We'll put some dots. We don't want to do too many dots because we'll kind of obscure the face. The hair needs a little bit of work. See, I'm making these contours here. And then separating the hair, thinking about the hair that's causing creating shadows on the hair surrounding it. And this is just one way to draw hair, kind of you apply it in groups and clumps. Let's add a little bit of shading underneath the eyes since we want them to look like they're buttons that are kind of elevated. Do some shading on the underside of those buttons to make them look more three-dimensional. Do the nose. For the collar, I will add a different kind of dot. It'll be kind of a little curved thing like this. I think that kind of gives it its own unique little texture. It's a little shadow there. This is actually more fun than I thought it would be. When I got the doll jacket balloon thing, I was like, it's gonna suck. But no, this is turning out okay, actually. Let's make the jacket look like it's corduroy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just draw very carefully these lines that follow the contour of the jacket, or whatever I believe that the contour of the jacket may be. So I'm kind of letting them bend every now and then. I'm pressing down very lightly. This Cintiq companion has 2048 levels of pen pressure, so I mean, you can go from like really thick to really thin very easily like that. Now I will say that the rocker ring, which is like a 4-way button that you can program to do 4 different things, is very helpful, but it's also a little touchy. You'll notice I keep trying to, I'll do like an undo, but while I do an undo, I also hide my palettes, and that's not the end of the world, because a lot of the time I want to hide my palettes anyways, so it's not hurting anything. But if you were using a different kind of command that was programmed to that, it might do some weird things, so you gotta watch out for that. Probably wouldn't want to set that to like save or anything like that. But there are also 4 other buttons that are not rocker ring buttons that you can use. So I'm just doing the corduroy here, or I guess just some stripes. They could be pinstripes or something too. I don't know how I'm going to make it really look like corduroy with this limited amount of detail, but maybe if we make it brown, it will translate. Who knows? And on the balloon, we have to give some contour as well. So I'm just giving it some hatching. Give it a little bright spot there. And then we'll just zoom out to fit. I have one of my shortcut buttons set to do that too. It just fits it to the page. It's nice. Now, it seems like down here I might have accidentally done this with my hand. Doesn't happen often, but occasionally you can make some accidental marks, but if you know what you're doing, you can get rid of them, so that's okay. It is on the hatching layer, so I'm just going to use my eraser here, which I rarely use, to erase. That comes in handy. So we pan back to our canvas here, and I think I'm just going to go ahead and crop this. I didn't know what I was going to do, so I made a wide canvas when I started out. I probably should have done a tall one, but that's okay. So I'm going to use the crop tool here to just crop this to something like that. Okay, so while we're at this, we'll add a little bit of color. I'm not going to go too extreme with the color here. I'm just going to do something basic, but this will give you an idea of what can be done. So we want to add all our color below our ink and our hatching. And if you're not doing super thick, solid, opaque lines like this, if you're doing stuff that's a little bit more thin like pencil, then you're probably going to want to set these ink and hatching layers to multiply so that they blend with what's underneath. So we'll call this layer color. No, let's be more specific. Let's call it hair. We'll just group these into a group, and we'll call the group color. So we're going to use several layers here. Using layers helps you color because some things are going to overlap other things, and if you're gonna color in, you should do the foreground stuff first because that'll save you the time of having to paint to the edge of everything. You'll see what I mean. So the hair is one of the topmost layers, and I will select maybe this orange for the hair. I'm going to zoom in to where I can see it, and I'm going to use the scratchboard tool again because it's nice and opaque. I'm just going to fill in this hair really quickly. It's okay if you don't get it perfect because you can always go through with the eraser and clean it up. I'm going to make my brush, actually no, I'm going to do these tips first, and then I'm going to make my brush bigger so that I can fill this in faster. Do this tip as well. I'm going to go a little bit bigger here with the brush, and there we go. Now it's filling in much faster. I might be a little sloppy with this because I don't want to make this video too long for what it is. So at home, when you're painting, you don't have to be so rushed. You can really take your time to go in and make sure that you don't paint outside the lines. Now I'm going to create another layer, and we will call this eyes. If you're wondering how I'm typing, I have the Wacom Bluetooth keyboard here. It's a wireless keyboard. It's very nice, very thin, and it fits inside of the pouch, which I actually don't have here to show you, but it's nice to be able to bring it along with you. There's a neoprene soft sleeve that you put the companion into, and it holds everything. It's really nice. Okay, so we're doing the eyes. I'm going to zoom into the eyes here. We'll make those aquamarine. Why? I don't know. That's just, I guess this isn't aquamarine. This is like a sky blue, but whatever. There we go. There's the eyes. You don't have to break absolutely everything into layers. You know, if you wanted to include like the nose with the eyes, you could, because those layers don't really interfere with each other. Maybe we'll do the eyes, the nose, and the mouth all on the same layer. And we'll just call this face instead. Make a new layer, move it below all the other layers. This will be the doll's skin. And now you'll see that I don't have to worry about painting to the edge because I can paint behind all of these other layers. So let's pick a color like this. I think that's what color I want it to be. I'm just picking colors at random. It doesn't really matter because I can change the colors after I've already painted them in. So just use a big brush to fill that in, smaller brush to paint near the edges. I have a shortcut on my pen here for one of the buttons, which helps me resize my brush quickly. I just hold it down and then I drag the pen to resize the brush. It's nice. The other button I use for right click because I use right click a lot. Okay, I think that we will keep the neck as this. No, we'll just do all the skin. You could keep the neck separate. Depends on how you want to shade this. I think I'm actually not going to use more than one level of color here to keep this quick. But if I were going to, I'd probably keep the neck on a separate layer, and that way I could add some shading to it on its own. Do the arms. Varying my pen pressure as I'm drawing so that I use a smaller diameter brush near the edge, and then I start pressing down harder towards the center to make it bigger and fill it in faster. Right, I painted over the edge a little bit there. That's okay, I'll go and clean it up. Because you have your eraser, and you can just go like this. You might want to make your eraser smaller. Okay, so here's a challenge that I see now. I'm probably not always going to use this eraser because when I flip it upside down, it's really big and it really taking a lot of time and effort for me to size it smaller. So I don't know about that eraser. Probably would have been faster just to switch to that eraser and then erase. This is actually the first real drawing I've done on this since I got it. I only got it yesterday, and I didn't really have time to use it much. So today, this is kind of my trial run, and I mean, I was impressed with this thing before I even got it, just because I've tried things like the iPad and the Surface Pro and a lot of different Wacom tablets, and again, when you're working with this, you don't really feel like you're sacrificing anything, so it's actually a really, really enjoyable experience. It's kind of what I've been waiting for a long time, and technology's finally caught up. It makes me hopeful for even greater things in the future. So let's do the next layer, which is the collar. So we're going to do the collar before the jacket because it's overlapping. And for the collar, we'll pick, I guess, I'm going to pick a color that's going to look hideous for now, just because it stands out against the other colors. And then I'm going to paint over it with like a light gray or something. But for now, I'm going to use this purple, because if I was trying to fill this in with light gray, I wouldn't really be able to see the light gray against the white, so it'd be hard to tell what I was doing. And I do this a lot in my paintings. I'll fill things in with whatever color stands out. You know, something I can really see, and then after I've already filled everything in, then I'll just change it to the color that I want and experiment with colors. See, that sometimes you get stuck if you try to decide on what color you want things first. A lot of artists will do thumbnail sketches and plan out their colors first before they start the painting, but I like to just kind of do everything all at the same time, so I just put colors in and then change them later. Added the buttons to the collar just because I don't want a ton of layers here, and we'll create another layer below that, and we'll call this jacket. We'll pick a brown color for the corduroy. I want it to be more reddish brown, actually, so I'm going to do an undo. That is another one of my shortcuts that I have programmed, is the undo. So you can see now I can paint all around this collar and all around these buttons, and I don't have to worry about them. That saves me a ton of time. If I did it the other way and I worked from the background to the foreground, I'd have spent a whole lot of time filling in all these areas of the jacket that are going to get covered up anyways. I would have wasted all that time. So this is really important. You would also waste time by trying to be really careful painting to the edge too. So I've learned this just from experience, from having done a lot of these drawings, that there are efficient ways to draw and there are inefficient ways to draw, and I prefer the efficient ways because I can get a lot more done and I don't get frustrated, and I'm an easily frustrated person. I like to be able to have full control over my work and not have it have control over me. I think this process works pretty well for that. It also kind of comes from having done a lot of work for clients too, where most of the time they're going to want me to change something, and you know, if I can plan things out ahead of time and anticipate changes, it's a lot easier to make those changes. And in this case, if this was for a client and the client said, I don't like that brown you chose, can you make it a different brown, rather than have to redraw the whole painting again, I can just go into this layer and just paint it a different color, which is what I'm going to do here in a minute. If I don't like this color, we'll see. Now, colors, you also have to compare their relation to each other. So you have to see the whole thing kind of all at once, and then that'll help you decide what colors to choose. We got to do the balloon also. And we'll do that like a bright red color, I guess. Something like that. So just filling it in nice and quick. I'll show you a little trick here. If you overpaint something a lot, or you just want to be really sloppy about it, here's what you can do to fix it besides erasing. You can use the pinch brush, And the pinch brush will suck the pixels in towards its center. So what you do is you just paint kind of along the edge where the black ink is, and it kind of compresses all the pixels underneath that edge. So long story short, it fixes your paint spill there. I'm going to use a smaller brush to put in the little bottom end of this balloon. And then I'm going to zoom out. Always good to zoom out and look at it as a whole. So now all these colors are hideous together, so now let's pick some nice colors that we like since we have control over that. I think I do like the base color of the skin, so let's base everything else around that. Let's go to the collar since that's the most offensive. We'll pick the scratchboard tool, and I'm just going to pick a very light blue-gray, and I'm going to try that. That looks better already. And the buttons are on the collar layer, so let's make the buttons like a dark brown, almost black. No, they're too dark. Let's go... just hunting around for the right color here. There we go. I like that. Let's go to the face and let's pick a color for the eyes. So we can sample our skin color here and we can find some complementary color options. If we go directly across from this lime color, we get this violet purple. So that would be a complementary color. If we want another secondary complementary color from that, then we can go kind of at a right angle. So I'll guess, and that will be this pink color or this aqua. Let's try the aqua on the hair. I kind of like that, actually. I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to go back to the face because I forgot to do the nose. That actually, by mistake, ended up being about the right hue anyways. But I'm just going to make the nose lighter so that the mouth stands out more. And then the balloon. So the balloon, again, we can really pick from any color that we want. If we want a complementary color, I'm going to say maybe we'll do this bright color here. Now that kind of throws it off. There is kind of a nice pastel going on here, and then some neutral for the brown. So maybe I need to stick with that and make it more pastel. That matches the eyes too much. Let's go maybe there. I like that. That works. And then I'm going to color in a couple of places to add some highlights. So in this highlighted area on the balloon, we will put a couple on the eyes layer, which is on the face. This kind of helps it pop out. Top of the nose. And then for the jacket, I'm going to make the bottom darker. So I'm going to sample that color. I'm going to just fill in this part that overlaps, or the back side of the opening of the jacket, I mean. And then maybe just because I think it will make it look better, we'll give the balloon some shading. We'll make an exception for that. So I'm going to sample the color that we used. I'm going to make it darker. Make my brush much smaller. And I'm going to shade it to make it look more three-dimensional. I'm going to sample this color again. I'm going to make it lighter. This will be our highlight area. I'm going to paint a thin edge to give it some three-dimensionality. And then we'll sample the skin color here and we'll put in that. That can reflect off of the balloon and that'll help it look more reflective and natural. And then as a finishing touch, let's add some texture to the skin. So we'll go to the skin layer, make sure preserve transparency is on. Pick a dark, kind of darker green than we have. And let's just use the sponge to paint over it with a little bit of texture. Maybe we'll just do that for the jacket too. That might look kind of cool. So sample the jacket color, darker brown, a couple taps. And back to the skin, let's just blend it a little bit. It's always good to blend. So I'm going to make my brush smaller. I'm just going to lightly blend following the contour of the doll. And there you go. We have a finished masterpiece here. So I'd like to thank you for watching Draw This. There will be new episodes every Tuesday, so I'll see you next Tuesday for a new drawing.